So SGA was like, hey, I want to know, like, what do you think about this idea in Zentext? I think something about objectivity and sanity, something about how there might be like this thing where you reach this objective state of maybe not truth but view. Either way, it's different than how it would have to be different than how we normally view objective, as far as like a single, absolute truth in a way, but more of a view or something. I'd have to read again what he said to get the specifics, and then how that connects to sanity specifically. And then he also mentioned something about how that idea can be abused. And I was like, yeah, I got this. I got some stuff, which I did not, which is fine. But a few days ago, me and Dan were talking over PM, or actually I think it started on an open place. I don't know. About showing method. And how showing method is a very good way of teaching. So like, if I wanted to teach someone the alphabet, and I wouldn't just show them like, here's Z, right? You have A, now here's Z. Look how cool Z is, right? It's a haughty thing. I would want to bring them through the steps of the alphabet, right? A, then B, then C, because they had even if I gave them all of the other 24 letters, it would be nigh impossible to successfully put those together in the exact right order that is conventionally known as the alphabet: A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, etc. And I was noting to Dan that I've known this for a while, I like to hide method more. I like to peer on the other end of the idea. I want the thing to be fully fleshed, so, and it kind of almost physically, there's some people all around today for some reason, it almost physically manifests the most in like when people read over my shoulders. Now this isn't the best example, but it is the most grounded. When my wife does it, she reads over my shoulders. So I'll be like, whenever I'm typing, I'm usually ideating, right? So I'm building ideas. So A to B to C, and then I can go back and say B wasn't quite right, so let's move that to the left. Now C is a little bit different too, so that works with A. And it's just one long continuous thing. I might have instances of just silly, stupid things that I know don't work, but I need to put them down so I can get to the next thing and then go back and retrogress, along the path I had done. And so like my habit is more to hide it. I don't think that's a good thing, and I honestly don't do it as much as I used to do it. But that was kind of an instance. Now, once again, it's not like the words I said to SGA weren't like specifically like put in a poor order. And if you said that, it doesn't mean you're having these thoughts I'm saying. There's basically no indication for that, I think. But for me, it was. And it's just such a small thing. I actually even had to kind of try to think hard about the example. It's barely anything at all, but it was a slight omission. I think I even said the words like, I can collect those for you. Let me collect them, or something like that. Which is not a lie, but it also, there's a slight indication that all I had to do is collect them and get them together. So the reason I did say it is because I 100% know like how my brain works and have faith in my brain. SGE gave me two words, which actually there were two more difficult words to word associate to, so objective and sanity. So those words in text might not always be so hard. Like you can't find those exact words, and you're not going to find exact parallels. But you will find them kind of probably in the words and the meanings of the text. So objectivity might be one that's maybe one level down, and then sanity might be 2 or 3 levels down. So we're then kind of swimming in the esoteric murk that some people love so much, where you can just, this means this, this means this, this means this. The murk is good if you don't want to show method, which is kind of a sideline, but related to what I just was talking about. So the idea is to go at this with okay, what did the Zen master say about X? Can I find it? Now, a better even way is to go at it like, Okay, so I just pick up a random text, basically. Now, I picked up yunmen because I know SGA has been into the BCR a lot, and, like, yunmen's like the god of the BCR. He taught the guy that compiled it, etc. So, we've got, pick up, find a passage. So we can kind of ideate that and this has been a thing that they've said that people kind of take for granted, but the Zen masters are talking about one thing basically, and just have different ways of saying it, talking to different people about it in, different styles, different devices, different rhetoric. So I just find that one thing, and if there's one foundational thing, then anything can be said on top of it, right? So we can think about the word objective or the word sanity, and we can find each instance of each word in every single passage, if that makes sense, because each passage covers the foundation. Now, there might be some practical issues with that, like lots of koans were written not by masters, written after masters, way after the masters were born. They might not be legit, or translating issues, so it might have a kind of little bumble in this, method. But so then you can look at, and to get back to it, you can look at a passage and try to pull out the core of that, see if that core aligns with what you're, see if you could guess the core is a good way to do it, and then find the core, and then see if how that kind of connects with the ideas of objectivity and sanity. In this way, we're not looking for the exact words or ideas. So then what you can do is find a few of those, and so now you have a few things which might maybe connect to objectivity and sanity, and then you have, now I've given myself lots more word tendrils, right? So word association. So I'm like, this one kind of connects to what we're talking about in these ways. I can kind of smush it around, but then that leads me to these other texts and passages that I remember. So we have that then, we're just branching and branching and branching. So eventually find it. So SGA says, what do you think about this in text? And I say, let me tell you in a minute. Now, it's not like I was going to go down and sit and be like, spend an hour looking for text. We're talking about like a 5-10 minute process. And so, that, what I said was me, kind of haughtily, there wasn't any ill intent, like, straight out. It was just kind of the manifestation of a habit I have, which isn't always ill, but I don't think it's the best if you ever want to get an idea across, which it was just kind of flatly saying, I will get it, here it is. When the middle part was kind of a juicy conduct thing I was going to do. And so that was that, and this is that method showing. So this is me showing method. This is me lining up the alphabet to you. One passage I did find that had nothing to do with what I'm talking about, or with what SGA talking about. There was a monk asked a question, and then Yunmen said, this text is too long, let's save it for another day. And then the monk said, why don't we just leave it at that? That's exactly what he said. Why don't we just leave it at that? And Yunmen said, trapped, one word. And the monk was like, how am I trapped? And Yunmen said, if you take donations off the long bench, or if you go to the long bench, then you are already a liar. And the long bench was like a bench that people would group meditate on, and people would put donations on the bench. So he calls this monk a liar. And I'm pretty, and this is very parallel to like the snowflake one. I don't remember the exact of that one. I don't keep these things in my brain very well. That's the word association tricks. But just saw somebody I knew. But at one point, one of the monks goes, "You are being too cheeky, Yunmen." And Yunmen's like, "What the fuck?" And points out that monk is, if we switch the words of the monk around, we would say, the monk would be saying, you are a Zen master, so you shouldn't be too cheeky. Now, what is that? It's an implicit claim to know what a Zen master does and doesn't do, right? To say you are being too cheeky and then Yunmen points out, "You're a monk. You're fucking following me around, bitch. Like, you're on my coattails asking me these questions about enlightenment. And here you are, like, saying I'm being too cheeky. Like, what the fuck, dude?" It's the same thing with this passage. He's like, "Trapped. You are a liar. You are here. You are taking people's food." And Yunmen went on a lot about, like, beggars and stuff, and how people just roamed about and basically stole people's foods because they weren't earnest enough in what they were actually doing. They were just, back then, like, being a monk was pretty just chill. Like, it's something you would do. It's what the cool people did, it seems. Yeah, but he would get at him a lot for that. And so this monk is trapped by his asking a question that he already has the answer to, would be kind of a modern colloquial way of saying it. So this monk goes in and tries to, so the BCR talks about 3 levels of questioning, and one of them is just asking for information. It's not weird or esoteric, it's just literally 3 levels. The second is testing. The third is barb, but the testing. So this monk, he tries to test Yunmen, and Yunmen's basically like, "You're fucking in my congregation, like, but you're like, being haughty about what it is we should and should not do. Like, you're fucked, dude. Like, you come in here knowing this, or asking this question to me, literally, sitting down and saying, 'I will listen to you,' and then coming at me, basically." Yeah, it's a very common thing that happens, right? Implicit claims of enlightenment. It's a very, very, very common thing, and Yunmen was all about attacking them, about pointing them out. Got 5% battery. So, like, you can, if you go in with a question to anyone, like, what is the blockage? What is the answer you already have? And actually, Yunmen later on in that text points to this, like, even more clearly, and he says something like, "If I say to you, what right now matters, you've already been buried. You've already been buried." I'm trying to think of what it said. "If I say to you what right now matters, you've already been buried. You should go investigate." And he basically tells the dude, like, "Yeah, just," and he says, "take a little time," it's almost the exact wording, "and go meditate, like, go investigate through it." Like, so when you're asking the question of anyone, anywhere, what is the root? What is the answer that you already have? What is the implicit claim you're making in your question? Like, how many implicit claims can you eradicate? Can you find them? Right? What else do you dislike? Exactly. What are you saying with your question? Is kind of a colloquial way to get it, and it's a little bit more nuanced than that, but that's an easy way to grasp onto it. Jay Krishnamurti talks about, you literally only can find what you're looking for. Like, you can only see what you have the ability to see. Like, any question you ask is going to be answered basically by the parameters you set for the question.